Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back in War Thunder, but instead of focusing on the game, we're going to be focusing on the community aspect. And the reason for this is because since, I would actually say January, February, when I first looked at this topic, it seems like there's been more of an explosion of negativity and pessimistic attitudes around the game, which is completely fine. But it's just something that has been noticed, and of course, during this time of year when the Chronicles event is running, there is generally people who are pissed off, and normally by the summer months, it calms down, and then by the winter months, it's, calmed down again, and then in January, February, it starts up again until around about the end of May, and people just simmer down a little bit. But right now seems to be a little bit of a height of annoyance for the community as a whole, or at least it seems like that when we look at some of the posts that are around, and this one got incredibly popular. So this is by Reaper the Aviator. It was golded, as you can see, or at least he was, and also 1,231 upvotes from it. Now, for me personally, I responded to a thought in the thread which was talking about the first point, but I thought why not do a whole video about each point, because obviously a lot of these comments are very much sentiments of a very, I don't really know how to put it, but a vocal part of the community, I think is the best way to say it. And therefore, why not address each one from a point of view which is different to theirs? And there are some things that I agree with, there are some things that I disagree with, but one thing that this post does not do at all, which for me is a criminal sin when it comes to everything to do with the community and the attacking nature of it, is it never gives any ways of fixing the issues. It just talks about the problems, and then even if an issue has shown to have a solution by the community itself, so let's say there's a post which says, right, we need to fix the BR system, so let's drop it to plus 0.7, minus 0.7. There is never any critique on that point. There is just a belief that it'll work for some reason because it will make everything smaller. But the main thing with this post itself is the fact that it doesn't give any nuance, it doesn't give any solutions, it just says, these are issues because I believe they're issues. And even if we go into the comments that I had with Reaper the Aviator about the loot boxes thing, a lot of it literally comes down to, well, this is how I feel, this is my morality, therefore the company should do what I believe is correct. So, we'll go into it, okay? We'll go into each point. Now, I may be a little bit less courteous than I have been in the past, because first of all, I haven't slept in around about 3 days. I've had to work incredibly hard, and on top of this stuff has been happening for weeks now. And it hasn't stopped, and it won't stop until people start calling out the misinformation that is moving around this point, and basically explaining to the community piece by piece how this is all working and how it's all going down. So I've done my best in videos addressing some of these points, so I thought why not do a general video talking about each one in its entirety. So let's go ahead. The first point is the community is dying fast. In the past few months they've had : the community is not dying. The community as... you know what? Here we go. I'll even reference some videos for you. Since I seem to have talked about this bloody topic at least 3 times now. The community is not dying. The best you can say is that, or the worst you can say, is that it is stagnating. And from that point of view, here we go. Myth of a dying game 2 years ago. Why IRB is dying. That was basically a response to a video from Slick B, and I basically brought up solutions for it, and then here we go. This is the other one. A dying game rebuttal. As you can see, 2 months ago I made this video. Go watch this video. It will be able to explain to you the community is not dying, and it is definitely not dying fast. What it is doing at best is stagnating. Now, if we go and look at the statistics for the game, when it comes to population, what you'll find is we had a large patch. It was called Update 1.77. It brought in a bunch of new Rank 6 vehicles, including some fan favorites. including the M1 Abrams and the Challenger. Guess what? We had a massive bump in players, and we also have had events. This has also brought a bump in players, but it has also pissed people off. The rank 6 part of it is exactly the same. So the community dying aspect is just wrong by every statistic that you can look at. And this is the first problem. The first problem, as I said before, there is no factual basis for any of these points. There is no evidence given, and there is no solutions given. Apart from these are the problems, which for me personally, I don't really like. For other people, that's fine. If they are okay with just critiquing stuff and not thinking about how to make it better, that's fine. Anyway, let's go into them. First point, community isn't dying. Implemented loot boxes. Now, loot boxes have always been an interesting topic of conversation. The reason for this is because some people are okay with them, some people are not. For me, it really comes down to the contents of the loot boxes. With War Thunder in mind, one of the things that has always tried to be done in War Thunder is not to sell power for money, right? Now, you can argue this rule has been broken a few times. The RU-251, I would still say, breaks this rule. The IS-6, when it was first released, I would say broke that rule. Right now, the IS-6 does not, but the RU-251, as I've talked about in the past, it's a bit of a weird area, because for me, I see it as a paying for power, because there isn't another light tank, a rank 4 for Germans. On top of this, it's incredibly powerful, massively high skill ceiling, probably the highest skill ceiling in the game, but the main thing is, with it, is not everybody actually believes that that is the case. But there has been this core belief in the game that selling power is a bad thing. Now, with these loot boxes, you get the ability to buy event vehicles. Now, it isn't buying, it is a random chance. You are buying the key for the loot box. Then you have a random chance to get it. Technically, it's gambling. Now, we've just had I believe it was the politicians in the Netherlands who have decided that the loot boxes from companies such as EA, such as Blizzard, are actually gambling. So it's going to be interesting to see if the War Thunder boxes are the same, because technically they do have a monetary value, even if it is in Gaijin coins. The Gaijin coin has a monetary value behind it of 1 USD per 1 Gaijin coin. But anyway, back to the point. They added in loot boxes. Loot boxes have been here for an incredibly long time. I know you don't want to believe it, but you know what? Here, we'll take a pause in the video, and I'll show you what I mean. Right, I'm back. So, let's talk about loot boxes. First one, which isn't paid for, is the daily reward, as you can see here. There's your first loot box that you have. Second of all, if we go to item shop, these are all loot boxes. Every single one of these is a loot box. You either get a Black Prince, you get 120,000 Silver Lions, a random wager, premium account, or 300 Golden Eagles back. Now, you may not think this is a loot box because you pay for Golden Eagles, right? You pay Golden Eagles in order to get this box. But the other box can use the same logic. You use Gaijin coins. You don't use dollars. But for some reason, these boxes have been in the game for years at this point, and they do have rare stuff in them. This has rare stuff in them. The Friday the 13th box. Let's see. The Key 87 is pretty rare. The Black Prince, I don't think you can buy the bundle on the store anymore. The Spitfire F Mark 9C, not 9C, that's the 14C. I don't think you can buy. You might be able to, but there's at least this. Right? If you want to talk about rare stuff in a box. Now, you may say, well, it's not a vehicle. What about this, then? That's a vehicle. So, let's move on from that point to a different one. Moving from the implemented loot boxes, I actually talked to him a little bit about this one, because I thought, let's just see where he actually stands on it. Because the thing is, it's a very much open-ended topic, unfortunately, when it comes to it. So here we go. So he says you really have to look for those loot boxes, though. The only reason I know they exist is because you reminded me. I'm not sure that's a valid point, but it's okay. Reaper the Aviator. I've seen more KV220s in a month than I've since it was added. Maybe you don't know about them, but many do. Then I say this. There has only been 34 KV220s sold on the marketplace since it's been up. The reason you may have seen it a lot is because of players like me who got it back in the event, using it to do challenges and events that they have been going strong for about a month now, so the events themselves. The number might be even lower than that, since I may be reading the graph wrong. It may be less than 30. And then the kicker here is the next sentence. That's just the amount sold, not the amount given from the loot box itself. And while you might be right about the amount sold, the fact that you can buy it / earn it from the box is what my problem lies with. So the issue is, right now, for Reaper the Aviator and the rest of the community, since, this post has massively been upvoted, and so has his post, so my post a little bit, but the main thing is, it seems like there is a community sentiment behind this idea. So it isn't the fact that you can buy and sell them on the marketplace. And if you want to know where I got the 34 KV220 figure from, here we go. We're on the KV220. If you go down to price history, you can add them all up. Generally, if something is priced here and it disappears, that means it's sold. If you want to do a rough estimate and see how many have been on the marketplace, well, you can just add them up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's 24, 28, no, 27, sorry, 28, 29, 30, 34, 35, right? But then you've got to realize that if we go to the KV220, there's still 3 on offer. So it's going to be around that 30 mark that have either been sold or they've been put up for auction and not bought, and people have taken them back. Now, going back to the premise here. So we're not talking about the fact that they can be bought or sold. We're not talking about the fact that they can, be on the marketplace itself. We're not worried about the monetary value of them. What we're worried about is that they can be bought in these boxes. Now, as a player who has done all of these events, the first thing that I picked up on was the fact that if you look at the current event, and if you look at every other event for at least the last 2 years, probably before that, you can go to this tab, right? And you can go to the task for pilots or task for tankers, and what you'll see is when this task is out, can we see it on this one? No. When this task is out here, you will see in the top corner here, there will be a purchase price. So you can actually see, on the 6th one, I purchased it. I was busy for 2 days straight. I wasn't able to do it. I was able to get 3 kills in a plane, but that was it. I wasn't able to complete it. So I had to buy this one. Cost me, I believe, 899 golden eagles. And from that point, this shows that you can buy these Chronicle awards if you want to, from a position of putting money into the game. So with that said, people could already buy these vehicles when these events were going. Now, the system in its whole has just been expanded to, instead of Gaijin taking out the money for it, the players are putting up their prices. Oh, actually no, let's start that point again. So, Gaijin are giving them away in loot boxes. We don't know how many they're giving away. We don't know the percentages. It would be lovely to see them, but unfortunately right now we don't know. It could be 0.0001. It probably is. It could be 0.1. We don't know. We also don't know how many boxes have been opened. We don't know how many keys have been sold. We can speculate, and that's really about it when it comes to this stuff. But all we really know is how many KV220s have been put on the marketplace. We don't know anything else. All you can go on is subjective opinion, which is what Reaper the Aviator is doing here. He's seen more in a month, therefore there must be more which are coming out of these boxes, even though he doesn't know how many boxes are sold, doesn't know the percentage of them with KV220s. He doesn't know that people are using them from before, since they've become a highlighted topic. This is an issue that I ran into with Mike Goes Boom as well when he made his video. Something he didn't highlight was the amounts which were actually sold. All he did was highlight that the issue itself is a problem. He also didn't highlight that the cost of the vehicles is player driven, which is one of the biggest things. When it comes to these events, I don't want somebody who's just started the game now, to not have access or not have any way of getting these vehicles. I understand some people want to be collectors. They want to be put in a place where they have some special toys that other people can't get. I don't want to be that person. I want people to enjoy as much content as there is in War Thunder that they can enjoy. Now, everybody has been focusing on the KV220 because it's seen as an overpowered vehicle. Nobody talks about any other bloody gift vehicle, and the KV220 was given away in an event ages ago. It is very obvious that, first of all, Gaijin learned from it, and second of all, it is not overpowered in the sense of the word. It can still get annihilated, and guess what? Good players still do well in it. The Jumbo, if you want to throw that in there, is technically overpowered if we're going to talk about the 220. There are 2 Jumbos in the tech trees right now for each nation. Do we have to get rid of them as well? You can just look at stats if you want to. You can look at stats, you can look at win rates, you can look at KDs, you can look at the 75 Jumbo. Now, that is basically the same as a system like the KV220. Apart from the KV220 right now is in the hands of incredibly experienced players, including myself, who have been around for years, who know how to use the machine, who understand the meta of the game, who have basically been playing for an incredibly long time and know what's going on. Other people like this are Tiger Frost when it comes to arcade and realistic. You can ask him about how the game plays, he will tell you everything about the game. Just like people like Mofo, like Rex, like Tazzy. We've all played for years. We know this game inside out when it comes to this kind of stuff. And when it comes to the KV220, it's always going to be good in the hands of somebody who's good, and it's going to be average in the hands of somebody who's average, and so on and so forth. But anyway, back to the point. So the main issue is the fact that they're being sold in the first place. This is just a difference in opinion. I personally believe that it is fine for new people to be able to get access to old content which, is available to older players. I don't like the idea of this hierarchy where I get to sit on my pedestal and say, look what I've got. Like, it's nice sometimes when somebody asks me to do a rare vehicle thing, and I do have a lot of rare vehicles in the game, right? Let's talk about the MAA1. How many people have the MAA1? This little chunky monkey. Now, is it right for me to stop other people from having it because I had to grind out an event to have it? How about we go even further? One of the hardest events, in my opinion, apart from the E100 one, was the Katusha one, because I was shit at it, right? This machine was very hard for me to get, but I did it, right? I feel proud in the accomplishment that I did it. Now, if this gets stuck in a loot box and other people get it, am I worried about that? No. Does it take away from the achievements that I gained this and I put in the time for it, and I also was able to get it before everyone else for at least a year at this point? No, it doesn't take away that. But if you don't give the opportunity to other players, such as players who haven't played the game as long as you, to get them, then obviously they're going to get pissed off. And one thing that has been talked about so much over the last, let's say, I don't know exactly how long, but at least for the last few months, is people retention, population retention in War Thunder. And the reason why it's talked about is because some people brought it up. Player retention is bad in War Thunder. It is pretty bad in every free-to-play game, because people can easily make an account and just go on from there, never pick it up again if they don't feel like it. There are many free-to-play games that I have made an account and never gone back to after about half an hour's worth of play. But the thing is, War Thunder has an issue where the player retention is worse than other free-to-play games. This is a system which stops people coming back to the game because they see the shiny new toy that somebody got 2 years ago and they go, how do I get that? Oh, I can't. Well, that's great. Now it's just going to bash my fucking head in over and over again. Instead, what you could do is you could set up a system that incentivizes people to get this vehicle. Now, the way you can do this is either through loot boxes, through the marketplace, or through the workshop. Now, the third tier, the workshop stuff, is the bit which I hope eventually comes. And I've talked about this before with the idea of having like a monthly system where we have a rare vehicle that you can build doing certain challenges. But the other two are there. And these systems are designed for newer players, they're designed for people who weren't around at the events, and at the same time you can still say, if you want to, oh, well, now we're putting money on these, we're putting monetary value on these rare vehicles. You could already buy the event. I'm sorry to let you know this if you're new to the game or if you haven't been here for 4 years, but you could always buy the damn events. Since they brought in the new system, the new UI, it was designed around that. You could buy the boxes for every single day and you could get every single vehicle without putting an hour into the game. So with that said, I think it's completely fine giving people rare vehicles through loot boxes, because I don't feel good stopping people getting content that I have. I also don't like the fact that they're at an inherent disadvantage because they don't have as many tools in the toolbox as me, an experienced player. It's the same reason why I hate gift premium vehicles, which are way too good. I despise the i301, especially when it was released. And this is the reason, because it was a noob stomper. I much prefer the Tandem Mai, if you've watched the review I just did, for this reason. So yeah, that's the first point. Let's go on the second one. Done nothing to uncompress BRs, and ruin some BRs like 6783 and 60/80 Air. Uncompressed BRs. Buzzwords are wonderful things. They're nearly as good as weasel words. You should have a talk to Gaijin and find a buzzword which you can mix with a weasel word and just put them together like this. Because what Gaijin do in all of their Q&As, they chuck out tons of weasel words. Now, if you don't know what a weasel word is, it is may, might, maybe, stuff like that. Could is a weasel word, because they're basically designed to give you a little bit of false hope, but also not 100% there. It's not a will, it's a yes, it's a maybe, right? Buzzwords are even better. Buzzwords are words that people throw out, which don't really have a lot of meaning, but they throw them out because they're used a lot. So, uncompress in this instance is basically that. So what does uncompress in this instance mean? So done nothing to uncompress the BRs. Does that mean push the BRs further apart? Because that is what uncompressing technically is. Compressing is pushing two things together, right? And just compressing them down, melding them together. Uncompressing them would stop that. It would basically pull them apart. So are you talking about here, instead of having 6.7, 6.3, 6.0, we have a 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4? Or do you mean instead of having a bunch of 6.7s, what we do is we elongate the BR range to 10, 11 or whatever and stretch everything out. So everything has its little place. I mean, if that's what you mean, okay. We're doing that. The M1 Abrams just got up BR to 9.7. Even if I disagree with it, it has just happened. That, along with all of the repair costs, along with everything else on top of the Abrams, all of the accuracy nerfs that it's also got, is annihilating that tank. And people are still playing it because it's an Abrams, and they're still doing well in it because it's an Abrams. The biggest issue right now at top tier when we talk about that type of stuff is the fact that we don't have enough people playing other nations, especially on the US and EU server. But anyway, we'll get back to this point. So, uncompressing BRs. I don't get how you're supposed to fix this. There is also another video, which I actually got a little bit of flack for, and that's completely fine. There was somebody who was talking about one of the Q&As that I did, and there was something, I think it was this one, right? I mean, it might have been this one. Yep. Yeah, I mean, the like to dislike ratio doesn't show it, but generally the community that has been coming around my YouTube channel, which is a great community, actually puts their thoughts in comments instead of just disliking videos, which is really nice to see. And it means that I get to read them. But yeah, I made this video. It's called The Human Element of Matchmaking. The main reason why I made it is because people were going on about pushing the matchmaking to be 0.7 and negative 0.7, which is completely fine. I think it should be actually trialed for like a week just to see how it goes. The issue with doing something like this, though, is the fact that people are still going to migrate to meta vehicles. What I brought up in the video was the Tiger 2H, when it was just Germany and Russia. Tons of people migrated to it, tons of people played it. Nowadays, it's a little bit more spread out because there are other heavy tanks at that BR and mediums, which are a hell of a lot better. But stuff that you could pick out is the 906. The Object 906 is a vehicle right now that people are flooding to, and this is the human element of matchmaking. Whatever changes they make, whatever changes they do, what will happen is people will still flood to meta vehicles. I also brought up the fact that in League of Legends, in Dota, MOBAs in general, this happens as well. You have a standard set of heroes in these games, but there is a meta to them. So there is a reason why at the professional level you will never see specific champions. A example of this, I believe, is called Garen in League of Legends, the top laner with the spinny move and the big sword. He will never be seen at pro play, or would get like one match out of 1,000,000 because of his skill set, because it does not fit professional play and there's too many counters to his skill set. This is exactly the same of what happens in War Thunder with different vehicles. And it's just something that you just have to understand. There is no way that you can balance a tank destroyer against a medium tank, unless you really screw about with the armor, or you really screw about with the gun in a big way. And just to say they've done nothing to uncompress BRs, what do you want them to do? If you want them to spread vehicles even further apart, then I want to point you to another point that you've made. This is the big issue with pushing vehicles apart. If you keep the range the same, 1 OBR to -1 BR, but then you push everything apart by, let's say, 0.3 or 0.7, or let's say you go full hog and you uncompress everything in your sense, which I'm guessing you're coming from, where you push stuff further and further apart, and then you also implement the plus 0.7, minus 0.7 idea, what do you think that's going to do to your queue times? Do you think it's going to go well? Because it ain't. Your queue times are going to go through the damn roof, especially at high tiers, and Reaper the Aviator is a level 100 player, and he has top tier vehicles. He plays top tier vehicles, such as the A1A1, such as other vehicles like this. Your queue times are going to go through the fucking roof. And I did say I would be a little bit more aggressive in this. I apologize for the swearing, but sometimes, it's needed. Your queue times will go through the roof. You will never get a game at high tiers. The Abrams is already running into this problem. You want to know another vehicle which ran into this problem? The Farman. And that is one of the lowest BR vehicles in the game. And that is because of the human element of matchmaking, which is something I told before, and also the artificial 4 bombers per match thing, which Gaijin brought in to fix the TU4 and the B29, and also the B17 to a lesser degree. So all of these things, if you uncompress the BR, also change the system to plus or minus 0.7, which would fix the problem that you have said is here, you still have to deal with the human element of matchmaking. And you can't. Because you just can't. Unless you make every single vehicle in the game exactly the same, you can't do that. On top of this, what about your queue times? They're gonna get annihilated. And the counter-argument to that is, well, more players are gonna come to the game, and therefore queue times are gonna be lower. They ain't gonna start at top tier. They're gonna have to work their way through the ranks. And according to you, there's nobody playing top tier. There's nobody playing bottom tier because the community is dying fast. So which is it? Work it out.